Uh, During this session, we are going to be looking at academic and scientific writing. We've spent some time looking at research design. We've looked at the different aspects of the scientific process of scientific inquiry. So now we're going to move on to how do you produce the result. I will discuss one of the basic ideas around academic writing, but you have to also take into cognizance that depending on which faculty or which area you are, there might be some adjustment or differences across fields. But the general idea is that there is a basic structure that you need to follow. So, the learning outcomes for this session uh, cuts across understanding the importance of academic integrity, understand the structure of scientific write-ups, and be able to describe the content of each of the section for the scientific output. So we'll take it in bits, and the video series will be about 6 or 7, let's say. So, what are the things you must take into consideration when you are preparing your write-up? We'll go through them, how you should organize your time, how you should organize your information, and how you should put your writing together. So these are the general aspects, and then we will now go through the structure and the content of that structure, looking at the IMRAD structure, a broad general structure used for scientific output production. So let's look at the general aspects. We've talked about before you start doing your write-up, it is very, very important for you to have a grip of how you're going to spend your time, which means you must carefully look at creating a structure of how much time you are going to spend on each task in the write-up, which means break the write-up into segments that is realistic for you to quickly complete or complete with the time that is available. So, in order to also increase your efficiency and improve how you can your ability to complete each task, it is important that you have very realistic deadlines. You create deadlines that, okay, this section I'm going to finish it within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever is suitable for you. That keeps you in line to make sure you achieve what you set out with. So once you have this breakdown, you have a breakdown of the different stages, you allocate time to each of the stage, and then you make sure you have deadline of when the stages are going to be completed. You can work with this. Now you have a kind of structure you can follow to make sure you are on point and on time in completing what you are going to do. At times things may not go the way you plan, but make sure you try as possible, as much as possible, to keep in line with what you have set up. Okay, then the next thing you want to do is organizing the information and the ideas that you are getting or that you have gathered. Remember, I've highlighted this before in some of our previous presentation, that you need to do a proper literature review. When you have that kind of well done literature review, it makes other stages, other parts of your work very easy to do. Okay, so the first thing, you must gather and think about the relevant materials. You do them. When you gather this and you identify the relevant materials, then you need to even sieve them out. You need to separate. There are some that will be very necessary, that will be very important for the work. There are some that are going to be slightly less important for your current work. So you need to be able to decide what is what and use that to identify what you need to focus your energy on and which ones are just by the way that you need to spend less time on. So, having this, having done this, then you also need to create a kind of illustration that kind of link all the different ideas together. As you're reading, you are learning new concepts, you are understanding new findings or the different findings from different places, the different methodologies and approach that have been adopted. You need to start illustrating or kind of have a way to link all of them together so that you know how they relate to your own main idea. A spider diagram as illustrated on the right side of the screen is one of the ways by which you could do this. So you have the main idea that you're working with. It could be domestic violence. It could be community, intra-community, intracommunal conflict, and traditional governance structure. So when you have that as the main idea, as you're picking other works to read, you start seeing what are the concepts or what are the other issues that are related to it. You can label them as different topics, and if there are any other offshoots from there, you can also identify that so that you begin to see the big picture. So from this big picture now, it becomes easy for you now to create a kind of a table of contents which kind of outline what are the things you need to talk about in order to fully exhaust what is required to do your write-up for that particular work. So remember, you need to organize your time, and then you need to find a way to organize the information and the ideas you are collecting. Now, once those two steps have been adequately taken care of, the next thing to do is to start writing. Scientific writing is a very, very direct writing, and it's unambiguous. What does that mean? You are not writing with feelings or emotions. It has to be very, very straight. You are not going to be writing sentences that are not clear for your audience to understand. That's you are putting a statement that can be interpreted in different ways. No, you are going to write in a very direct way. We'll get to some example as I continue with this. But let me reiterate on that or elaborate a little bit about that. You cannot say that there seems to be a slight or a don't know how to put it now. There seems, there are some languages, like for example, if you say there is a relationship between A and B in terms of variables now, are you talking about statistically significant relationship? And at what level is that statistically significant relationship? To what extent is that statistical relationship in terms of the direction of the relationship? Is it positive? Is it negative? You are just not going to leave it at there seems to be a relationship. What does that mean, that there seems to be a relationship? If there is a relationship, there is a relationship. If there is no relationship, there is no relationship. You are not going to say there seems. No. You have to be direct and unambiguous. It must be very, very clear. You write statements that are clear and straightforward to interpret, not leaving it to the imagination of the reader to interpret or to deduce what you are trying to say. It must be clear and straightforward. So, to get started, if you have some problem getting started, maybe you are trying to write some part of literature review or some aspect of the introduction, and you are getting a little bit challenged with how to structure it, nothing stops you from moving to another section of the work. You can, but as long as you have the general idea of what needs to be done, especially your introduction, it's always important to be able to write your introduction from reading the literature and knowing what are the problems, what is the state of art in terms of what has been done, what is yet to be done. Once that is clear, your introduction should be easy to write. Once the introduction is done and you know your aims, you know your objective, you know what are your research questions, if you're going to have hypotheses or not, and once that is clear, if literature review, putting it together, if it seems daunting, then you can move on to another aspect of your work. You do not have to stay on chapter 2 and waste all your time there, even though you are having some challenges putting it together. You can move to your chapter 3 based on what you have read so far. Then, if you are having problems writing some aspects, you should also ask yourself, are you in a comfortable environment to write, or are you trying too soon to write? Maybe you have not gathered enough information, that is why you are not able to write. If you are not in a very comfortable environment which can help you to relax and concentrate, that might also be the problem. Is the structure that you are putting in place, is it actually correct for you to be able to write what you need to write? If you have put up a structure that is not well defined, then maybe that is what is causing the challenge. So make sure you look at that in terms of the outlines that you have highlighted that you are going to follow. Maybe things are not flowing, because if they are flowing, then you will be finding it easy to write. Remember, also, when you are writing anything, is you are telling a story, and the story must be logically, the sequence must be logical. So when you have a structure or outlines that are not following through from one another, then you might have a problem trying to write it out. Are you trying to be too clever? So at times you don't need to write convoluted long sentences. You do not have to write it. It's not at times. You do not have to write convoluted sentences. You don't need to use big grammars to show that you know how to write in English. Simple, short statements are easy to understand for everybody, and they convey a very clear message. So don't try to play out how clever you are by convoluting things that could be simplified. I'm not saying you should oversimplify it, but within your field, write in such a way that people can understand. That is important, because when you also try to be too clever, you're looking for the right set of words, you are looking for the combination of the different words. No, write simply. You are not only writing for yourself, you are writing for other people to read. Once you write the first version, you can review it later if it is necessary. You are always going to have version 1, version 2. When you read, you get a better understanding, a better feel of what you have written, and you can rewrite. Just like I have highlighted before, is it always necessary to start from the beginning? At times it may not be. You might need to start from maybe materials and method, but my advice is put a structure for your introduction, get a good read very well so that you know what is missing in literature. Use that to organize your aim, your your objective, your research question, your hypothesis if they are necessary. Then you can move on to materials and method if that feels comfortable. But the decision is going to be yours. You have to find where you are very comfortable starting.